ask was, how do men see women?
Mm. Mm. Oh my gosh, I've expressed it in so many ways. Well, I'm going to say a bunch of things, but I just want to start with saying they're so much more sensitive than even they think. And they're sensitive to good things. Like they're sensitive to what they would call sincerity. So do the words and the feeling match? And for the words and the feeling to match, they have to be feeling the feeling that's happening in that person. And they don't give themselves credit for how much they can feel appreciation coming from us. So if we say thank you, but we're not feeling appreciation, it's hollow. If we say I love you, but we're not feeling love, it's hollow. And they're mystified by our relationship to emotions, although they keep making allowances. So the mystery, the beauty, the life force, the often what they would consider loftier ethics than they have, our capacities for patience and compassion, for caring, for nurturing, all those things are in awe of, and they then give allowances for what can drive them crazy. Like they don't understand diffuse awareness. So we just occur as scattered, and they don't understand why we're so distracted. They don't know our brains are very different. But like to them, we pay an inordinate amount of attention to what we're feeling and are yanked around by our emotions more than they would ever allow. Um, but okay, she's a woman, she's going to be emotional, and they're just hoping not too emotional. And one of the biggest discoveries I made in the last few years was I'm certain men are way more emotional than women are, that their emotions are much more intense. And that's why they are so proud of themselves for keeping a grip on them. And so they only show the tip of the iceberg of their emotion. And when a woman is in a rage, what I call the rage monster from her feelings, right? There's a video on YouTube about it. When we're enraged from our feelings being hurt, they assume that's the tip of the iceberg. They don't know that's the whole iceberg.
Mm.
We can't get any worse than that attack that the editor in our brain has put together. And they don't know that is the worst. We are the most frightened, the most disconnected from ourselves and our spirit, the most out of control, the most just this little blip of consciousness going, no, I don't really think that, as the most horrific stuff is spewing out of our mouths. They think it's the tip of the iceberg and they're terrified of it. They don't, no, that's the whole thing. And yeah, that's the good news, guys. That's the whole thing. And if you don't try to stop it with the sword of truth and logic and end up getting burnt to a crisp by a 30-foot fire breathing dragon, if you could just take a deep breath, be illogical because you didn't intend to hurt her, but she's hurt anyway, and say, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. And mean it, really mean it. You got to be sincere. You got to really, really mean it. Magic words can save lives. Just as a woman saying, I'm sorry I disrespected you. Even when we look in our bodies and we can't find a single feeling of disrespect, on his side, he was disrespected. If we can own it and say, I'm sorry for it, we'll get our partner back. very hard for both of us to honor the other person's reality when there's nothing over here that says that could or should be true. Um, I know one man who decided, in order to be able to tell his wife, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, that how he can work his way around doing that is that if he had never been born, it wouldn't have happened. So he'll just take it on himself because he was born. And it allows him to sincerely say, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. And um, of course, there's so much more to be said about that, but we teach that in Understanding Women. Um, but men they use the word magical, mystical, unicorns in the forest, color in a black and white world, necessary, absolutely necessary. There are a few men who are trying to not need women. There's kind of a movement as the more men are denigrated, the more they want to be impervious to who's denigrating them. They're trying to not need women, but most men would consider that foolish. They just accept that they need women. I've encountered a couple of misogynists who so need women and don't know how to get what they need from women that they've gone the route of hating women, just as women will do with men. I know I did it. But how come we don't have a word for it?
Yes.
I'm like wondering, why isn't there a word? Um, what's the misogynist? What's the other word?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and yeah, they've called us delicate flowers of nature, and um, in awe of how women can think differently and come up with solutions that they could never have arrived at. And if they're not treated as less than by that, then they just can admire and respect it and call on it. It's true for all of our strengths. If we don't, what's wrong with you that you're not like this, then they can just appreciate it. Um, they they talk a lot about the life that we bring and how just one of us can enter a room and change everything. Um, that it's a woman's consciousness that makes a house truly a home. And it's why they look for what they look for and who they're going to live with. That the qualities she embodies are those are the homes that they want to come home to. Um, Many men have expressed they think most women are smarter than most men. Early on in teaching women about men, I was interacting with. It was actually the same man who said "naked lady, naked lady." Um, he said, "I've never understood women's the women's movement to be equal, the drive for equality, because it seems like a step down for women. Why would you want that?" He was probably not quite 40 years old, very successful man. And I mean, my life changed by listening to men talk about women. I started to see women differently. I started to see myself differently. And they're so attracted to self-confidence that they will attack what they see as affecting the self-confidence of someone they care about. Very colorful language, those effing women's magazines. And why do you ever listen to such and such anyway? And, in the Queen's Code, Jack being like, why do women put that so-called flawless crap on their face? um, yeah, so anything that diminishes our self-esteem, they will want to go to war on, whether it's our mother or a so-called friend or some show we insist on watching, or someone we're following that just makes us keep feeling less and less. They're um,
Yeah.
they also think we're incredibly courageous and have a different kind of strength than they do. Um, it's humbling to them. Like our pain threshold is so much higher than theirs. and and how resilient we can be, the phoenix rising, how we can rise again and again and again. Um, they're pretty much in awe of us, and if we're not attacking them, they're just happy to dwell in awe of us and want to be good enough for us, and are just looking for signs, like Mike talks about in the Queen's Code. Just looking for signs that we think they're good enough for us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's such a beautiful spot to end this conversation. Thank you so much. It was such a joy, and I can't recommend the books enough for all the listeners to dive into these realms. Is there anything you want to add before we close, love, that I haven't touched on?
Oh, if we had 12 more hours, I could, but I think it's a good place. And well, actually, I would say this because what you asked in the very beginning. Even if you don't know what it is, if a man's being defensive, if you adopt, okay, if he's being defensive, he must experience that I'm attacking. Let's get curious instead of thinking he's an idiot. Okay, it seems like, there's a good word to use. It seems like you're feeling defensive. So I'm guessing I must have said or done something that might have felt like an attack, but I truly don't know what it was, and I didn't mean to. Would you be willing to illuminate? And then imaginary tuck tape over your mouth and just wait and wait and wait. And usually what men want to do is they want to go away and settle down, calm down, let their nervous system shift, and then come back. So even offering that, if you want to go away and come back, I'll wait. Or just text me when you're ready. But that curiosity, I swear they have dictionaries in their head and they don't even know it. The origin of curiosity is the Greek that means to care. And so being curious about what am I doing that's having this effect on you, that can move them to tears. What men have expressed about to the women who go through our curriculum, they're just like, wow, that you would do this to understand us, to treat us better. They're very, very moved by that. So yeah, we can assume, I just thought men they were defensive because they were weak and they were wusses, and I'm not doing anything
Yeah.
that I knew of. It really can turn out if we start with being curious, a little, big dose of humility that we don't know everything, that we're probably misinterpreting. There's so much we can get through. And for the person who's worried about being with someone that isn't ending up in the same place, I created something this last summer called Connecting Through Conflict. And it's very, very powerful to identify, where are we disconnecting? Are we disconnecting at the level of expectations, at the level of preferences, at the level of needs, at the level of values. And how do we know which one it is? And then if we weren't going to just be ordinary humans blowing everything up with conflict, how could we treat these things in an extraordinary way and end up actually, my stand is I'm not done until I'm glad it happened. Every conflict is an opportunity to have something be really better and really better in a sustainable way. Um, so that's an area to get curious about. Get curious about conflict. That there's gold in them. There hills, a lot of treasure in something we normally avoid.
I love that, getting curious about conflict, because it is something that we typically avoid. And
Yes.
yeah, getting to that place where we're happy that it happened. That can be
Yeah.
a lot of digging to find the gold. But the gold is always there.
It's there.
Always.
It's totally there. Even if
Yeah.
the gold is, you know what? This is a real conflict. This is an authentic conflict. We shouldn't try to be having this form of relationship with that kind of conflict. It will never work out. And not because either of us are bad people. We're just not a fit for each other. Oh, oh, I love you so much. Let's not try to be this anymore.
Mm, yeah.
That's the kind of gold, the freedom and the kindness to not try to get something from people that they can't give.
Beautiful.